Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about archaeology and experimentation. But to first review, last time we learned that prehistory is the period of time prior to written documentation, and this period varies regionally. Second, we learned that humans are capable of many types of symbolic expression, like rock art, which can be influenced by environmental conditions. And third, we learned that art and other forms of material culture can be used to make interpretations about behavior in the past. Today's objective is to know that using the discovery of Ötzi as an example, we can understand that we can learn about the past through ethnographic analogy, experimentation and replication, and theory. So last time we learned that that archaeology is a systematic study of remains in context, and this is done using inductive reasoning. Today we're going to learn about how archaeology incorporates ethnographic analogy, experimentation, and replication, and how we can link artifacts and behavior through theory. Ethnographic analogy is simply the comparison of past remnants of behavior to modern peoples. So for example, these teeth marks here, or these marks on these teeth rather, are known to be left by activities such as basket weaving or net making because those activities leave similar marks in modern peoples. We can also use experimentation and replication in addition to ethnographic analogy. Some forms of experimentation and replication include flint knapping, testing replicas, making pottery, and making clothing using ancient tools and materials. This is my friend Sandy. She's pretty cool. She makes archaeological pottery using archaeological methods. And now it's time for a video! Yay!
Howdy folks, my name is Jim Wynn, and I've been flint knapping for about 30 years. I've done quite a few videos on YouTube explaining more advanced types of flint knapping, but what I'd like to do today is something a little bit different, something for beginners, to sort of explain, what flint knapping is, how do you get started in it, what kinds of tools are you going to need to get started, and how to make your own tools. This is just an example of modern replica. Okay, this is a flintlock rifle. The reason I'm showing you this is where the term flint knapping actually originated. Back in the 1600s, when they were making the first guns, they required flint in order to ignite the powder charge. And so the people who made these flints were called flint knappers. And the term actually may have originated in Germany. Knap, I think, means to shape. And so flint knappers are those who shape flint. Anyway, that's how the term got started. You can see the sparks fly off here, hopefully. The first stone tools that our ancestors used are called geofacts. They're just naturally occurring stones that were utilized by our ancestors as far back as 3 million years. Rocks like this that had rounded edges could be used for crushing bone to get into the marrow, or for a multitude of other purposes. If they had sharp edges on it, they could be used for cutting flesh or wood or making other tools. Well, somewhere along the line, our ancestors discovered, probably by accident, that they could strike two rocks together and produce useful tools with sharp edges. And this was a major step forward because now they didn't have to go out and try and find sharp tools. They could actually manufacture these things themselves. These are just some examples of pebble tools. They've got a few flakes removed, produce a fairly sharp edge that could be utilized for a number of purposes. As the process continued and they began to understand the predictability of the stone and how it actually knaps, the tools became more refined, simple hand axes like this, and leading to further and further refinement into what we call bifaces. These are actually discarded pieces from Wyoming, actual artifacts. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about the types of rock you can knap. Most rocks that you're going to find out in the field, they're not knappable because they don't have a predictable fracture. Things like granite and these volcanic rocks, sandstone, things like that, you're not going to be able to knap them. What we're interested in are knappable rocks that have a conchoidal fracture. And these rocks over here are chert. And chert comes in a variety of forms. It comes in various flints, and it comes in jaspers like this, which have mineral deposits that give it its color. Agates like this. And these have a hardness on the lithic grade scale of 7. where 10 is a diamond, and 5 is ordinary glass, and 3 is, I think, your fingernail. These rocks over here are volcanic rocks. The one on the left is obsidian. Usually obsidian is translucent. These are formed from lava flows that have a real low gas content, so it doesn't form a lot of bubbles, and it cools rather rapidly. This is dacite, higher grade, a little bit lesser grade. This here is from Arizona. This is another type of dacite. This is basalt, similar to dacite, but much more coarse-grained. These rocks over here are porcelainite. These are from Montana, caused by heat in the earth somehow. I don't understand the process. This is fused shale. It's caused by an oil fire. These are from the area near LA, not far from here. And these were utilized by Indians for making arrowheads. All of this stuff over here has a hardness of around 5, just like bottle glass. Now, the tools that are actually used for flint knapping come in 2 different types: your Aboriginal type tools and your modern tools, and we'll look at each of these. Okay, this is a pretty good variety of Aboriginal tools, and these were utilized for percussion flaking as well as pressure flaking. So we have a number of different hammerstones for percussion, the earlier stages of reduction, and we have different billet types from different types of critters here, moose and elk, and that's ivory from a hippo. We've got mammoth ivory. We've got various types of pressure flakers. We've got wooden billets, ironwood, mountain mahogany, and we have various types of punches. And we'll get into that later. Now, good hammerstones, they can be kind of hard to find. Usually I find mine in riverbeds. And I like sandstones. There's some people use limestone and a variety of other materials. This one here happens to be granite, but it's just the right texture, so I use this one here quite a lot. And generally what you want is smooth contours around it. You don't want a piece with fractures and cracks in it. It's got to be pretty solid.
So this flint knapping and pottery making is all well and good, but how do we know what artifacts are linked with what behavior? Well, we can make interpretations using theory, which guide interpretations. And there are 3 types of theory. There's low theory, middle range theory, and high theory. One example of a theory is actually gravity. Now, I know you're thinking that when you're walking along campus in the middle of winter and there's been an ice storm and you fall on your face and you shatter your favorite coffee cup and everybody's looking at you, you're like, gravity is real, Melissa, it's not a theory. Well, theory doesn't mean that something hasn't been tested or that it's not real. Theory just means something that is used to provide an explanation or an interpretation. So if I wanted to interpret something in the context of the theory of gravity, I would say objects fall toward the earth because gravity attracts them to its center. So what do I mean by these different levels of theory? Well, low theory asks, what is it? Well, this is an artifact. Middle range theory, how are things made and how do they function? So it's one step up from low theory. So behavior A makes artifact B. And then high theory is the most abstract of the theories, and it asks, why does this thing even exist in the first place? So behavior and artifact are adapted to time and place would be an example of a high theory. So let's take a look at one of my favorite examples, tanning beds, because if you didn't have a theory to interpret tanning beds, you'd think that we fried people if you were coming from another planet. So using low theory, what is this? Simply explaining it, this is a hinged metal rectangle that emits UV rays, right? Middle theory, how does it function? Well, those UV rays in the hinged metal rectangle, they darken skin pigment. And then why in the world does this exist? Well, this exists, we can hypothesize, because maybe tan skin is a desirable trait. I almost said that skin is a desirable trait, and it's like, yeah, skin's a desirable trait. It's a good thing to have. But let's look at a more serious archaeological example, since we're not likely to find tanning beds in the archaeological record anytime soon. So, using earthworks, what is it? This is a linear mound of earth. How does it function? Well, embankments of earth can serve as barriers. But why do we have an embankment of earth that can serve as a barrier? Well, agricultural societies experienced more conflict and needed barriers. That is an interpretation that was created using a theory. We can use these theories and experimentation ethnographic analogy to learn about Ötzi and his community, not just examples that Melissa makes up. So here's Ötzi when he was found. There's his body as it was found above, and then on the dissecting table, at whatever, left or right, I don't know really what way the camera's going to make that go. But you can see he was excavated with his tools with him, and that's something that we call in situ. We try to keep and preserve remains in situ as long as possible so we can preserve their context. So ethnographic analogy and Ötzi. How can we apply ethnographic analogy? Well, ethnographic analogy can inform function. So we found other people. I was like 5 years old when Ötzi was found, or something. There were these shreds of grass found among Ötzi, and so what could that possibly be? People looked to modern peoples and found that people wear grass capes, and so they thought, oh, well, this must be a grass cape. And that's an example of how we can use ethnographic analogy to inform the function of archaeological remains. Here's some pictures of the goat skin clothing that Ötzi was found with. You can see he's got a shirt, some pants, and leggings. So how do we apply theory to goatskin pants? Well, what is it? Let's start with low theory. It's goatskin clothing. How does it function? Well, it provides warmth and protection from the elements. And then high theory, why does it exist? We have to extrapolate from our low and middle theories that knowledge of domesticated animals allowed people to cope with the cold using the hides of domesticated animals. And then finally, experimentation and replication. Here's an axe that was found with Ötzi. And then here's a replica. Creating replicas helps us understand what kind of materials were used to produce an artifact, and then how long did it take to make it. Also, how does it work, and what was the sequence of production? Or the chain operatoire, if you will. So to recap today's lecture, ethnographic analogy, experimentation and replication, and theory can inform what we know about past behavior.